Hey folks, Dr. Mike Israetel for Renaissance Plus online membership community. Today's discussion topic is something that carries with it quite a bit of emotional weight, and it really does factor into sports psychology, but to some extent just general psychology of well-being. It applies to both males and females to a large extent, but it tends to be a problem that females seem to experience more deeply. And that is the relationship between social media consumption and body image. Particularly, the goal of this discussion will be maybe to give you some thoughtful ideas, some tools for staying sane on social media without having to tune out completely. You can just tune it out. And social media is optional. You don't have to be on it. And a lot of times a break here and there actually does a lot of good. But the cool thing about social media is it's got a lot of valuable stuff on it. It's a super awesome way to connect with other people, to learn things, to expand your mind, to get a whole lot of entertainment. And if concerns with body image and negative thoughts regarding body image are keeping you from enjoying social media at all, maybe the first step is to try to rectify that mode of thinking and think a bit more clear about it instead of tuning out altogether, which is always an option. But maybe we should save that option for if we really need it. And beforehand, maybe we can chat about some strategies to deal with the bombardment, oftentimes, that social media will give you in relation to your own body image. So first, let's talk about the actual problem at hand. The fundamental basis of this problem of social media's effect on body image is that we don't all have perfect confidence in how we look, particularly with our physiques. And we all have moments of low self-esteem and doubt. Do all of us have the same number of moments? No. Are all the moments of similar duration? No. Some individuals don't assign much value to their physiques, and they couldn't care less to a really large extent. But every now and again, maybe if it's time to go to the beach, getting shirtless in front of individuals whose opinions you care about, even the most confident of us may give it at least a glancing thought. Oh, I don't know if I want to reveal myself. If you move further along the spectrum, some individuals are downright obsessed with their body. I certainly fit very close to that category. I think about my body image constantly. And there are different ways to think about body, and some of them are positive. You really like how you look. You like how you're progressing. You like where things are going. You draw confidence and inspiration and strength from the appearance of your body. And there are neutral ways to think about your body. Well, I'm very aware of it. Here it is. It's okay. It's just fine. It doesn't bring me a lot of inspiration or pleasure or satisfaction, but it's not an awful, grotesque, terrible-looking thing that I hate. And then there are still other more negative ways of relating to your current appearance. Some individuals are more often inclined to think that they do not like the body in which they are. Some individuals will go so far as to say that they hate their current physique. And some individuals will link problems with appreciating their physique to problems in general with self-esteem. That because they so much have a problem with how they look, physique-wise, they will say or feel that it is interfering with their life enjoyment and with their overall quality of life in general. Those last thoughts are the kind that tend to, if lingering long enough, will get you to quit social media sooner or later. If you have them, and if they're related to social media. So fundamentally, if none of us ever had any kind of seeds of doubt about our self-esteem, if all of us had perfect body confidence, this wouldn't be an issue no matter what social media threw at us. But everyone's got their weak moments, and some people have more of them than others. And here's the deal. This is where social media comes in. Social media is filled to the brim with pictures and videos of individuals with downright amazing physiques. There are people on social media, not one, not two, not three, but hundreds and thousands, and no matter what your taste or preference is, have basically the perfect body. It's not just one person who you can say, well, it's just this one person. It's hundreds, it's thousands. And because of the way social media linking algorithms work, if you like or follow some individuals who have invested themselves heavily into physique sport, into looking flawless, the social media algorithms will recommend and show you other individuals that look very similar. After a while, if you hit the subscribe button enough times, if you always think about your physique enough, and if you're involved in physique sport especially, then your newsfeed, no matter what app you're using, starts to fill up with perfect bodies. And it's every race, every creed, every gender, and everyone is in unbelievable shape. To many individuals, and we'll talk about this later in more depth, this can be quite inspirational. If you ever need a light, a beacon as to why am I training, why am I dieting, every now and again, if you diet hard enough especially, and if you train hard enough, you can lose temporary motivation. You look up these literal gods and goddesses, and they realigns you to go, wow, that is what I want. That is the goal to strive for. That's something really, really special. But meanwhile, while that is a positive, there can be some negatives too. If your social media newsfeed is filled with flawless looking people, you can look at that all day, throughout the day, scroll, scroll, scroll. You look at yourself in the mirror, even if it's at the gym with a pump, later that day, the next day. Chances are the body you see, if you follow people for inspiration, you probably don't follow people that look worse than you. So chances are the body you see in the mirror is going to be one that doesn't quite stack up to those individuals whom you see on social media. That can be quite imposing. And if you let that sink in enough, it can begin to wear down on your self-esteem. You can begin to think, everyone's in better shape than me. And remember, our brains evolved in a time primarily without technology at all. Your brain, at some basic level, doesn't differentiate between people you know and are aware of in your social media circle, maybe ones you've never actually met, just pictures and names. Your brain doesn't differentiate between those people and real people in your community. Social media, as far as brain activation is concerned, is community. It's as real to your brain as anything else. And all of a sudden, if your huge, vast quantities of your community that is in social media is in unbelievable shape because you follow those very people to be inspired by them or to draw information from them, pretty soon you start to feel, sort of accurately as far as your brain is concerned, that you're in some of the worst shape out of anyone in the community. And it doesn't really matter how good of shape you're in objectively. If everyone you follow is in better shape, you are going to be jaded somewhat, especially if you continue to engage in certain thought patterns, if you interpret that information coming in without any qualification. It can be quite imposing to see a whole lot of super, super developed physiques, perfection on social media. Look at yourself, you're not perfect, and the cracks start to show, right? It gets worse still. A lot of these individuals post training videos, they post pictures of diet food, and that's to be expected. But many of these individuals want to show sometimes the reality and sometimes the illusion of a balanced lifestyle. And they want to show you that they're humans, and just like humans, they like to share in the things they love. And because almost all of us love junk food, a lot of social media posters who have incredible physiques will post pictures or videos of junk food, rarely, often, or what seems like all the time. It can be tough to take, especially if you're currently dieting to lose fat. You're eating these baby portions of bland foods, slaving away for weeks and weeks. You may very well, and you probably are if you're doing things right, getting much, much better in your appearance, but you still don't look like them. Meanwhile, you check their Instagram feed, they've got abs, they've got veins, and they've got a whole plate of cheesecake in front of them. That can start to seem like a really, really cruel fate. How is it that you're suffering? You don't look like them. And they're having all the fun in the world eating all this junk. And they look like gods and goddesses. That can wear on you. You signed up for motivation. Now you might be getting a little demotivated, if not lowered in self-esteem. So the problem leads us into a question. Remember, the answer to the ultimate question of how do we stay sane with social media can always be we just leave. And that does work. But then you miss out on the good stuff too. So our temporary question is going to be, how do you stay sane and stay on social media at the same time? I'm going to offer the idea that it is not an impossible proposition. That it is possible, in fact, to stay sane, as long as you correct certain thought patterns and practice the good ones and not the bad ones, to be sane and experience social media for all of its good stuff. But it's going to take a little bit of work. The first kind of work it's going to take is that every time you see social media posts, and if you practice this even for a couple of weeks, this kind of thinking, it becomes ingrained and it automatically hits you and things are never the same again. Every time you see social media posts, you're going to have to take into a couple of considerations. And I'm going to list these considerations for you. There are others that I'm not listing, but these are what I think are very, very much worth mentioning at the very least. Once you take these considerations, you're going to find that the almost illusory, godlike nature of the people you follow, their ability to eat seemingly endless streams of junk food and have perfect physiques forever, is a little bit mythical. It's going to bring this whole process down to earth, and it's going to put some of these things into perspective. The first consideration is that almost everyone who posts on social media, especially people who have very high-level, well-developed, perfect physiques, so to speak, almost everyone on social media pretty much posts either only or almost only their best possible looks. What does that mean? That means people post really often when they are in competition shape. When they're at their leanest or their most muscular, they post all the time. Due to the cyclical nature of sport, they may not always be lean and muscular. Sometimes you think, these people are all the time in amazing shape. I want to be in amazing shape all the time, and maybe you're in your best shape only 2 or 3 times a year for a month here or there, after you finish a fat loss phase or at the top of a mass gaining phase. So how is it that they're in shape all the time? Well, the thing is, they're almost never in shape all the time. They just present most of their media content when they are in shape. Some individuals will go so far as to say they cache of social media content from when they're in shape and post it, dope it out, so to speak, over the weeks in which they are not in their best shape. Or they'll put out social media content that is physique related directly with their appearance when they're in shape, but is related to other things that they do, maybe still physique oriented, but doesn't show off their bodies at other times. I'll tell you what I do. I post on social media all the time. I post photos of my physique. And I have, a couple followers here and there. When I'm in my best shape, I post the most often. When I'm not in super good shape, during maintenance phases, for example, when I'm neither super jacked nor super lean, I post mostly intellectual content. I'll post technique videos of me mostly covered up doing the right techniques of exercises. I'll post lectures where I talk about scientific concepts and how to train versus actually being shirtless and half naked, in my case usually in front of a toilet in the bathroom or something. I have the worst possible shots ever. So when I do that, I'm not doing it to purposefully trick anybody, but I'm going under the assumption that everyone's putting their best foot forward. I do that too. Most individuals who put their best foot forward by mostly posting when they're in really good shape, saving a couple pictures for when they're not in great shape to keep posting, and also perhaps posting different kinds of content, more lifestyle content, more educational content, less physique content when they're not in the best shape. Most of the people doing this are not doing this with bad intentions to try to get you to think that they're always in shape, unless they actively say that, in which case they're usually lying. Almost no one's guilty of that. There are a couple here and there. They're just putting their best foot forward. It is not a lie. It isn't even much of an illusion, unless you fall into your own illusion of thinking that's the case. Remember, when your brain sees social media images, 365, 24/7, what you can get is, for example, let's say you follow 2 bodybuilders. One of them has a season where they're in shape in the winter/spring. The other one has a season when they're in shape in the summer/fall. You follow both of them, and because you follow a bunch of different people too, let's say half of the people you follow out of the 500 people you follow on Instagram compete at one half of the year or in really good shape of some way or another, and the other half are in really good shape during the other half of the year. Because you probably, hopefully, don't follow just one person and just look at them all the time and, oh, they must be out of shape because they're only posting intellectual content. Because you sample from a bunch of different sources, you don't tend to notice who's in good shape when, or who's posting different kinds of pictures when, or, oh, this is an old picture, I remember this photo shoot, they're not probably in the shape now. You just see people in good shape all the time. So because you're seeing so many images, and because someone's always in good shape, you get this general feel that the best of the best in the industry, the physique professionals, the people that look amazing are always looking amazing, and they always look like that. The fact of the matter is that, first of all, they don't always look like that. And second of all, even picture by picture, they don't always look like that. One of the most humbling things to an individual who you're following, not to you, you can do is meet them in life, meet them in person. A lot of times you're like, wow, that person's actually super muscular. Wow, that person's actually super lean. And the next thing you usually realize is, yeah, but they have a couple pictures in which they look completely inhuman, but here they look alive. When they turn this way, you get to see a little bit of a pooch of their abdomen, and when they turn that way, their chest doesn't quite look like it's bulging as much, or this, and that. They're real people with real angles. So how is it that you thought they were completely superhuman and they had these teeny, tiny little waists, or in fact their waists are small, but maybe not teeny tiny? It's because they always pick the best angles. Remember, there's only one arbiter of the pictures that they put up on their social media. That's them. What they do is they take a bunch of pictures in a row, even when they're pumped and at the gym and looking their best, with a bunch of different variations of the same pose. Sometimes, and I learned this from a friend of mine, a fellow RPer, Jared Feather, you actually just turn on your video camera, you hit your poses, and then you take snapshots right out of the camera for your best possible look. That look occurred for literally a fraction of a second. One frame. One frame out of it. So basically you look like pretty good for 1,000 frames, and one out of 1,000, you actually put on social media. Do I always look like I do with the biggest chest pump of all time and super big triceps or whatever? I almost never look like that. Do I look close often? Sure, totally. But if you have this idea that everyone on social media is in super great shape all the time, that's not remotely true, because they're usually not in that good shape all the time. And those camera angles, those pictures are very much planned. Never mind the editing algorithms they have now where you can change a bunch of stuff about yourself. We're just assuming unfiltered photos here. But if it's filtering, it's a whole different thing altogether. But remember, they're posting their best looks on purpose. So what you have to do, this consideration, is every time you see a picture on social media, you should think in the back of your head, aha, this is this person's A game. And they're mostly mortal. They look immortal right here. They look unbelievable. But this is illusory. This isn't regular. This is just their best. And it's inspirational, and it's awesome, and it's great. But in order to not put them on too high of a pedestal so that you feel like crap, you got to realize that's just their one little reach, and they're usually right here. Oh, they may very well be above you in physique development, and probably are. But they're not always up here. Now they're a little here on average. They're more realistic. You don't have to be as intimidated. Big consideration to give it some thought. Second concern. You may be involved in physique sport to some extent. You've just started. You've been training for a while. You have a day job. You have school. You have a family. You have children. Maybe you're older and you've just re-entered the fray. Maybe you're quite involved. But remember, almost all of the people that you're following on social media, it is their career to look good. That's what they do. If you want to set them as the standard and you fall below it and you think, man, they're just regular people like me, they got all my strengths and none of my weaknesses, because my weaknesses, and I'm not in that great a shape, but They're regular people just like me, except they're also in amazing shape. You are making a giant assumption, which is mostly wrong. There are some polymaths out there, people good at a bunch of stuff and they're in great shape. But those people are very rare. Most of the people in the fitness industry, they have taken, you see the top of the iceberg of their appearance. There is 90% floating underneath, which is a massive machine-like architecture to get them to look that way. A lifetime of perfect training with almost no missed sessions. The cheat meals you post, and I'll get to this in a bit, the cheat meals you see them eat are the only ones they ever eat. So if they ever have 5 cheat meal posts, that's the only 5 cheat meals they had all year long. They eat meticulously. They support their appearance often with a variety of legal and otherwise supplements. Their entire existence, most of it anyway, is funneled into that look, especially if they have like 500,000 or a million Instagram followers. I guarantee you, for the purpose of money alone, that is what they put all of their money, all of their time, all of their effort into. And you're trying to compete with them? Do you watch videos of LeBron playing basketball and go, this guy just playing basketball, whatever, and he's so much better than me? He's not just playing basketball or whatever. His entire life is designed to make him the best of all time. If your entire life was designed to make you the best of all time, would you be as good as LeBron? Of course not. But would you be much better than you are now? Yes, absolutely. So if you look at people and go, oh man, these are just regular folks and they're such good shape and I'm a regular person and I'm in crappy shape, they're probably not regular people. They're probably not. I myself post quite a bit on social media. My entire life was purposely designed by me to try to engineer as high level of performance as possible. I think about what it takes to be as good as I can in bodybuilding and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pretty much almost every single minute that I'm awake. Right? The number of hobbies I have outside of the sport is probably much more limited than yours. My knowledge of anything but very purely intellectual topics is probably much more limited than yours. So if you think, oh my God, there's Dr. Mike, Posty's such big quads and big chest, so amazing, and he's got all these things going for him, I don't quite have all those things going for me. There's a variety of things that I really suck at. But you'll never see that on social media because, point number one, best foot forward. Why would I post stuff I suck at? So when we look at these people and think, man, they look so good, and we can just cut the and right off. That is an assumption you're not allowed to make because it's not likely to be true. And if it is true, well, every now and again you get a really superb person that's good at a bunch of different stuff. So careful. Appreciate them for their physiques, but don't go making extraneous value judgments thinking, oh man, they've got this physique, and just keep it to the physique. Unless you know better, keep it to the physique. That way you can appreciate them, be inspired by the physique, but stop short of judging the entire rest of your life as a metric compared to what they have and the physique on top of that. So, getting on to the next point, the obvious implication from that is that investment in making your physique amazing is one of the many directions you can take your life in. And what I'm about to say is going to sound a little bit insulting, and I think that's okay. It's meant for the best, and it's going to sound harsh. And there are more exceptions to this than there are rules, but it's nonetheless worth mentioning. A lot of the people who invest heavily in their physiques invest very lightly, sparingly, or not at all into much of anything else. You may be watching this and thinking, oh man, my physique's not that great, and you are an unbelievably kind person. You're a loving person. You're hilarious. You're super smart. You're very successful in your career. You have surrounded yourself with people that you love, and you truly fundamentally enjoy your life. You can appreciate art. You can create art. You can create music. You can think abstractly. Can people on social media who have a phenomenal physique do all of those things that you can? Even some of them? Maybe. But it's by no means clear that all of them can do that stuff. If you meet some of these individuals and you talk to them, some of them turn out to be very eclectic people, and they are quite inspirational. Some of them, it turns out that the focus, the funnel of energy they put into their physiques, just about all they have. And but for the physique, they would be mundane, not even regular people. with very few hobbies, very few interests, very few interesting things to say, and some of them not even very loving people, or very kind people, or very generous people, or very understanding people. So you look at this girl on social media, you look at her abs, you look at her butt, you look at her waist, you look at those curves, you look at those muscle bellies, and you think, my God, her life just must be amazing. I know you do that because I do it too. Everyone does. You can let yourself have those thoughts, but be careful because you're now purely fantasizing. And by that I mean you are making stuff up that is not in evidence. The reality of the matter is that you could have the opposite fantasies as well, the opposite notions, and they're just as likely to be true. You can look at her abs and her waist and her butt and say, I guarantee you that if you ask her anything about how do you treat your friends, she'll be like, I don't know, people love me. And that's going to be wrong because people just like her because she looks good, and as soon as she doesn't look good for whatever reason, everyone's going to leave her the hell behind because she's actually a really scummy person. Or she'll turn into a really great person only if and when she realizes she had nothing invested in how to deal with other people. Now, she could very well have a lot of other good qualities, but you could have very few good qualities, and you have no idea about that. So again, to make a very clear point, find inspiration, find beauty in the physiques, but don't go down this rabbit hole of, oh my God, their lives. You don't know anything about their lives. People hardly post anything on social media that can be construed as an accurate reflection of life. My life on social media must seem pretty cool to a lot of people. I train all the time, I get to be a professor and go on lectures and talks. How often do I post on social media about radical self-doubt, about not finding peace, about worrying about the future, about worrying about my health? Do I make posts like that? No, this is the first time I've mentioned it in any kind of outward release. Do I have thoughts like that? Of course. But I don't go talking about it, and neither does anybody else. So you may think, oh my God, Dr. Mike, he's the man. Maybe. I got some good things going for me. I got some not great things going for me too. So if we're going to fetishize people as individuals entirely based on not knowing them, we're going to be off to a very bad start. Appreciate people for how they look, totally. But start value judging yourself against them like, oh my God, she's got everything. You have no idea what she has. And compared to your complete and total life package that you have, which your physique is only a small part, she may be dirt poor in that respect. So don't assume. So they may have you beat on body, but they might not have half of what you have in the other, even more important elements of your life, at least as important. When you want to improve your life, you can improve your life in physique, you can improve it in health, you can improve it in career, you can improve it in family, you can improve it in self-improvement. And here you are spending all this time thinking of physique and ignoring everything else. Maybe it's a good idea to see all of it as a total package and think of yourself when you're trying to generate your self-esteem on a holistic level. How is everything doing versus just the physique? It's easy to see the physique. It's not easy to see everything else. So if you have a more balanced perspective, all of a sudden you take all these considerations, and the people on social media, they don't look quite like superheroes anymore. They look like superheroes, but the fetishizing, the celebritizing, the raising to a pedestal in true value as individuals is gone, right? It's replaced with a great and healthy esteem for their physiques or possibly their hard work. And that motivation and that inspiration is great, but it replaces that toxic desire to try to be like somebody. You can't be like anyone except for yourself. You can just improve various parts of yourself. The only part about them you know is their physique is great. Bill Gates has like $80 billion. Do you want to be like Bill Gates in every possible way? Like a 6 foot tall, 150-pound nerd, barely physical at all, has no idea how his own body works? I guarantee you that. Maybe not. The money's cool. And he's super smart and super diligent and super dedicated. Maybe you should look to him to that and not try to judge him as a whole holistic value of a person. Everyone's got some give and take. And you can't ever tell that on social media because people don't present ever their whole picture to you. Last point of a consideration. The people you end up seeing on social media that you follow, almost all of them have phenomenal genetics. That's how come they look like that in large part. They have great genetics. You may have good genetics, but not great. If you judge yourself as never good enough compared to them, you're running a fool's errand. Yeah, they have amazing genetics. Can you measure up to them? Probably not. Why would you? Do you see a rhinoceros at the zoo and go, damn it, I want to be that strong. I suck. Why am I not that strong? Because you don't have a rhino's genetics. Nobody ever looks at a rhino at the zoo and goes, yeah, man, he's super strong. I want to be like that. They go, yeah, he's super strong. That's cool. But he's also an animal and he poops in the grass and then steps on his own poop. So people that have really good genetics for appearance, first of all, you don't know anything about their genetics for anything else. And second of all, of course they're amazing looking. You should consider that before judging yourself as a metric against them. Using for inspiration is totally cool, but judging yourself, geez, you don't know how good they have it, right? Or how bad you have it as far as genetics are concerned. Supplement use is always an issue. Unless an individual regularly competes in drug-tested federation, and even not all of them test all that well, and even people pass those tests, though most people in drug-tested federations are in fact drug-free, especially in physique. Drug use is very common. And there's nothing particularly wrong with drug use if it's an informed decision by adults. But remember, drug use alters physiques. It can make the once unimaginable a regularity. Of course, at great price to legality, to paranoia, and of course to health and psychological wellness. But nonetheless, it makes people look cool. And remember, you don't know how healthy they are in the picture. You don't know how paranoid they are from drug use. Literally, high androgen levels cause paranoia, anxiety. You don't know how they feel. You just know that they look amazing. You don't know about the side effects. You don't know anything, but they look great. So all of a sudden, you're thinking, this is a regular person. There's just an amazing body, and they got everything I do, except they also have the amazing body. But what you don't understand is they have that amazing body because of a lot of hard work, but also unbelievable genetics, considerable amount of drug use, perhaps, and all that other stuff they have, career, family, etc., is dilapidated compared to yours. Not always, but often. So all of a sudden, you are envious of a person for nothing. You're envious of factors that have been explained already, and that you can just wish to have, but there's no point. You're never going to get their genetics. You can take all the drugs if you want, all the crappy side effects and all the burden. Sure, but it's not an accomplishment. It's not something you're jealous of. That can be arranged. And a lot of this stuff especially is related to the junk food posts. A lot of females especially will see female physique competitors post brownies and chocolate cake and sundaes and have these insane abs, right? And they'll think, oh my God, how does she do it? She seems to eat junk all the time. And some of these people admit, like, I eat this all the time. I'm in shape. And you start to think, damn it. And jealousy takes over. And jealousy is not a fun emotion to have. Why does she get to look like that? Why does she get those abs and to eat junk food? She gets everything. She gets all the attention. Look at her. And here I am avoiding cheesecake to look, what, normal? Barely? What the hell is wrong with this world? Well, that same person might have taken a little bit extra T3 that day, thyroid hormone, and it's mixing with her clenbuterol just a little wrong that day. She walks onto the, Arizona sunlit parking lot and it's just a bit too hot after her workout. She sits down in her car and her heart goes and then it goes back to normal. And she sits there and she doesn't grab the steering wheel and she thinks, oh my God, I'm going to die. How often do you think you're just going to die? Hopefully not often, because hopefully you're not pumped to the gills with a ton of gear, but she is. Hey, later she goes out to the Cheesecake Factory with her friends, eats a bunch of cheesecake, takes a bunch of pictures, all is well. Do you think she's going to put about her health consequences and her health scares in her social media posts? Of course she's not. Why the hell would you do that? Right? But you have no idea about that. But she's perfect. No, she's not. Are all of those people on drugs? Of course not. Of course not. Are all those people have just phenomenal genetics? No, some people just have pretty good genetics and they've done a lot of good for themselves. But can you just assume that these people just live normal lives and they just train hard and everything is great about them and not about you? No way. There's this whole thing about it. You have no idea. So next time you try to compare your very value to a person, don't do that. Don't bother comparing physiques either. Take inspiration from their physique, do your best in your own work, and see where it goes. Because if you do anything more than that, you are assuming things that are not in evidence. You're creating this self-perpetuating destructive fantasy for yourself where you'll never measure up to anything. So, to frame this discussion, taking pleasure in viewing the artistry of physiques is an amazing, awesome, super positive thing. Being inspired by physiques to push even harder is an awesome thing. Every now and again, I'll log onto my Instagram and see individuals who just have these phenomenal bodies, especially the physique competitors, the new physique divisions and the classic bodybuilding divisions. And they just have these huge arms and these tiny little waists. I don't have a tiny little waist. My arms are getting up there. It inspires me to try to be as close to perfection as possible. I don't judge myself for not looking like that. It's like a mountain peak. You're not worried about the fact that you're not at the mountain, but you see the peak and you see the wispy clouds and you go, wow, I want to get a little higher up that mountain. You might not peak that day, you might not summit, but to go higher, that's the purpose. If you take that kind of inspiration away from social media, boy, that feels really good and it helps push you, it helps everything. That's totally great. But comparing your whole life worth, whatever that means, comparing your self-esteem, remember self, composed of internal thoughts, goals, career, family, marriage, life enjoyment, and physique, which might be like 10th or something in importance, or not even in the top 20, or maybe it's even first in importance, but there's 9 other things competing for it. That's your life. And all of a sudden, based on one picture of a girl with abs in front of a donut, you're comparing your entire life to just physique. That is not productive. You don't know enough about them, or enough about yourself often, to be able to make that comparison. And if you did, what would even be the point? Let's say your worst nightmare came true. There is a person out there who is more loving than you, more caring than you, has a better family structure than you do, and a better body. Is grimacing and wishing going to be fixing any of your situations? I don't think so. Where does hatred take us? Where does jealousy take us? Jealousy is an emotion for children. Adults should have resolute plans to address inadequacies they consider worth it, and to be okay with inadequacies or just differences that they're not. Quick example. I'm going bald. Don't give a shit. Don't care about my hair. I guarantee you there are people that pass me by, whether it be in training or just walking around or at school, and they see that I'm jacked and they go, damn it. And they look at my head and they go, haha, but he's balding. To them, that's a little victory. And that's totally cool because they value hair. A lot of men really, I've been learning, the head of hair is like a super big deal in your 30s and 40s. Like, damn it, I'm losing my hair. I couldn't care less. So if you see me and you go, ooh, that guy, man, he must be just like me. He must be really upset about hair loss. False. Don't care. Matter of fact, I love to lose more hair so I don't have to shave my head as often. I hate the process. I have to do it because I hate having hair in general. If my hair just all fell out, I would just be thanking myself tomorrow. So all of those good things about people you think they value, they might not even value those as good things. And you don't have to value a bunch of different things about yourself as good. So do you have to think that fitness and how many packs you can see in your six-pack is the most important thing about you? No way. You can value everything else and think abs are pretty cool too. And if you don't have abs for 6 months or 9 months out of the year, that's okay because you got everything else going for you. Fundamentally, your self-esteem is deeper than just your abs. Can they tie into it? Sure. But can they be 90% of your self-esteem? Probably not recommended. Sure, very, very flimsy thing you're about to base your self-esteem upon. Right? So when you're developing your whole life and you're trying to improve, do you want to be the kindest, smartest, most caring person, but look like total crap because you haven't invested in your fitness at all? Or do you want to be a goddess that's completely vapid and emotionless and everyone around her hates her, they just want to look like her? Maybe something in between's a little better? Maybe less with the vapid and more with the life-fulfilling stuff and some fitness too to go along with it? It's a whole thing, your value. It's not just your physique, right? There's a spectrum there, and you kind of are invested to some extent in improving various parts of yourself, and you can choose which things to invest in and improve and which things not to. But remember, there's a lot of stuff there. If you choose to invest exclusively into your fitness, both your ego and your time, etc., just make sure that's what you actually want, because the rest of your life is going to suffer. If you're going to make a career of physique sport, yeah, you should invest quite a bit into it. But if you're a person who has a job and a family, children, blah, 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 etc., and you also care about your abs, care about them that 15% that they're worth, and care about them no more. Because if you start caring about them more than that, but you're not also putting in the work to change them, you are pushing Sisyphus' stone, right? You really care about your abs, but you're not working to improve the situation because you got the rest of your life to deal with. The amount of care you should have about something should be in proportion to how much effort you're putting into it. Keep that in mind. So, at the end of the day, you want to do good in fitness for yourself, not for anyone else, not to measure up to some fitness or figure goddesses or something like that. You want to make sure that you're putting as much into fitness, as much time and effort as makes sense in light of your other investments, right? And I can put this into a really quick example. Imagine you judged everyone and their worth based on how good of shape they were in. And imagine that, well, I was going to use Hillary Clinton, but to keep this politically unbiased, we'll use Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And why not Gary Johnson, the former Libertarian candidate? We got most of the spectrum covered. All three of those people are not remarkable looking, charitably. Their physiques, a disaster. If you met Hillary Clinton, you had no idea who she was. Let's say you were just living under a rock. And you met her, and you kind of were in the same shopping center together or something. You chatted her up for a bit, and she chatted you up, and you went your separate ways. You could look her up and down and be like, she's a workout. And somebody could ask you later, they could pull you aside as a part of a scientific experiment and be like, what do you think of that woman's total value? You'd be like, not great, because she, little pudge hanging out there. She needs to get in shape. But what if I told you that woman has at various times been like the 5th most powerful human on planet Earth? What? That she's ascended to every single top of every single political hierarchy but one. Right? Or for Donald Trump, all of them. All of a sudden, right? You could see Donald Trump and have no idea who he is. You see a picture of him. Let's say you're just totally out of the political process, or you're just not American. You see a picture of Donald Trump at the beach or something with, one of his ex-wives or something. And he's got gut hanging out, titties and everything. And you're like, ugh, that guy sucks. That guy's got his hand on the nuclear button. He's got the most enviable position of all time in history. He's the most powerful human that's ever lived because he controls the modern U.S. military arsenal. Are you so sure that physique is the only thing that's valuable? On a smaller scale, imagine, again, meeting a person at a store. You chat with them a little bit, they're kind of out of shape. They walk out, they get into their brand new Maserati, they drive it to their own private airport, get on their private plane because they're an app developer and they're a multi-billionaire. As soon as they start driving away in that Maserati, you're going to be like, hey, at least I got these biceps. That guy can go to hell. Just drive his Maserati off a cliff for all I care. I'm jacked. That's all good and well. And listen, there's value to your biceps. There's a value to being jacked and being strong and having a great physique. But it's relative and you never can tell. So remember, you are as valuable as you think you are, and you are as valuable as all of the investments you put into every part of your life. And if you're under the illusion that physique is the most important thing and generates the most value to you, that is an illusion, right? And you have to keep that clear so as not to get caught into this loop of going on Instagram and judging and judging and judging yourself, and at the end of the day putting down the phone and going, oh my God, I suck because everyone's better than me. You don't know anything about them except for the shape of their abs, which is a very small part of a person indeed. Right? In the case of me, a huge part because my abs are giant. That's a joke. Right? Now, fundamentally, you can take inspiration and beauty, and those are good things from looking at individuals. Jealousy and self-doubt are middle school emotions. If a middle schooler is jealous, it's middle school. When adults are jealous, they should know better. Now, that sounds really harsh, and it is. It's okay to feel jealousy every now and again. It's okay to feel self-doubt. Those things creep up on you. It's not like you plan to be jealous, but all of a sudden you are. It's all right when they creep up on you. Just don't give them any more value than they're worth. Note their presence. I am jealous because I want to look like that. Take all those considerations we're talking about. Life is a balance. Life is everything, not just physique. You're already doing your best. And if you're not, you can just do more and take energy from some other places and invest in there. But at the present moment, your body is a summation of all the factors that you have so far put into it, genetics included. You can always alter it more. But so far, the state in which you're in is the only state that could have occurred because it's a summation of everything you've done. There is a reason they look like that and you look like what you look like. And there's a piece to realizing that. Once you realize it, you can either invest more or say, you know what? I'm really comfortable with the level of investment I'm putting into my life, in fitness, and in everything else. And if you're comfortable with that, you're not overvaluing jealousy or envy, and you can note them and say, okay, I experienced this, a bit childish, not my best. Let's move on. And as soon as you do that, you're going to find a much more peace, and you can go back to valuing individuals on Instagram for what they're putting out. Wisdom, advice on training, inspiration, and the pure pleasure of viewing the human body as an art. You can go back to those things and rarely revisit the envy and jealousy and comparison. You're going to have a better time on social media, and you might not have to leave altogether. To put that in perspective, you can always leave if you like, take a break and come back, or just never come back. But before just ducking out on social media, give that some thought. And remember, value is a total enterprise, not the enterprise reserved exclusively for how many veins you have in your abs. Hope you guys give that some thought. Thanks so much. See you next time.